Well, trading has closed on February 24th, 2022, kind of a day for the record books. Let's start with our disclaimer, go over our predictions, and make some calls. It's my trading plan for tomorrow, Friday, February 25th. Just remember, I can be wrong. Any call you make should be at your own risk. A number of calls for today. Let's start out with the most important. We said we were extremely oversold in support. Even though futures were down, you couldn't rule out a recovery in higher prices printing. Could even justify a low and a decent rally. But if we get down smartly, broke through support and the door was open to a crash. Well, the door was open. We didn't go through it. As we said before, what you have to do is to make a bar completely under the bar from yesterday, because here's your TDST line. Support is one bar under the line, and if you have a bar under one bar under the line, you've broken support. And based on where we were open, the door was open. All we had to do was not close the gap, but that didn't happen. So these lines on the daily chart have held. Now this is the reversal bar on the daily chart involving the lower Bollinger Band. Assuming you trade over today's high, because you always have to get confirmation of these things. Assuming you trade over today's high, the target I have is a challenge of the upper band. Now it doesn't have to touch it, just has to come close, and that band moves. But right now it's about 400 points higher. Doesn't mean we have to go up 400 points, but if we rally in a straight line, that's what it targets according to my rules. So we had support from these TDST lines on the daily. Here's the TDST line on the weekly. Now we don't know where this week is going to close, but if it's closing near the high, the rules call for a challenge of the upper band, and that's higher than we've ever been. Kind of hard to believe, but this upper band moves. But if this gets follow through, which is important, if it gets follow through, those are the targets my stuff calls for. Now we get to cross a few numbers off the list. We had 42.14.73 from June of last year. We had 41.37.91, an ultimate target from May of last year, and ultimately these things print. Notice how we had resistance right at the target, even though the target came really 8 months ago, over 8 months ago. Market never forgets it. We also had a target 42.81.96. We said if we gap down, the call is killed as far as time, but it's not killed as far as price. So there was no prediction it would print today, just a prediction it would print at some time. Didn't say it wouldn't be today, but it did. We closed over it, so that's resistance area. So new target for tomorrow, 41.86.6. You're talking about over 100 points away. Kind of hard to believe. If we don't get up smartly, that's what the rules call for. Just remember, targets can fail, but that's what it says. Now we still have an ultimate target over 4,700. Let's see why that's important. At around the turn of the year, New Year's Eve, I give my predictions for the next year. You were trading around here, around 4,800. We had 7 targets from 2021. I thought we'd see them in 2022. We had 7, 5 have printed, including 2 ultimate targets. Let's see why that's important. Here's a track record of the system since I developed it in 2002. All the ultimate targets from last year printed. We still have one from 2020 which hasn't printed. We have one from 2016, and before that you have to go back to 2013. So not counting this year where we still have one higher ultimate target, and get about 150 of these a year, over a period of 8 years, I only have 2 of these. 150 times 8 is 1,200. I only have 2 of these which haven't printed. And in really 19 years, I only have 8. So roughly every 3 years, I get one that doesn't print. So unless this is an aberration, we're going to get that ultimate target. Ultimately, we'll trade well over 4,700. Doesn't mean you won't go lower first. Well, here's the volume spike, and these volume spikes are associated with market lows. Doesn't mean you won't get a higher one tomorrow, but it's a pretty good candidate for at least a low over the short term. We traded under this low, but over its close. All we have to do is trade over today's high to get a Trader Vic 2B buy signal. Today's low was right at an important trend line, so we're nowhere near this, but either if you're going to break through the trend line for keeps, you really have to gap under it tomorrow. I don't think that's going to happen. This low is also a target of the prior consolidation. I've updated these prices. This one's essentially the same one I had. Can also justify this. This is where I think wave green C is very likely to end. We're not there now. But if this was a final blow-off, I can justify it. I don't think it is, but if it is, this was the price. This was a thing we had since a few days after this high here. I finally have a wave count I like. We have A, B, C. C is twice A. And if you take wave blue B, there's an A, B, C. Take the height of C and see the great FEB relationship to A. I guess it's 50%. I wrote, no, that's not right. There's A. So that's 61.8 and that's 1. So 1.1618. So all these fibs work. And if you go back to that chart we showed, green C is about 0.774 times green A. It's not quite 786, but it's pretty close. I don't think that's it, but if we rally, I'm going to have to justify it somehow, and I'll use that as an excuse, but certainly have Fibonacci balance on various time frames. Well, Friday's pattern has the early low. We could still gap up. There's a lower MEJT target, and unless we gap up smartly, the rules call for it to print. Be aware of the risk of failure increases at major changes in trend and during strong impulsive moves. Today's reversal has many of the characteristics of a panic low. And we have certain sentiment indicators. We have an E-mini volume spike, a VIX Bollinger Band reversal buy signal. We have a wave count compatible with a low, and if we confirm this by going over today's high, we get a Trader Vic 2B reversal, as well as a reversal bar involving the lower Bollinger Band, which my rules say calls for a challenge of the upper band. That band's hundreds of points higher, and we have unsatisfied targets lining the path higher. I should point out breadth continued to deteriorate. I think any rally should eventually peter out and lower lows print. And if we don't get any follow through, this doesn't count, but this certainly looks like a panic low to me. We could go hundreds of points higher. We still have to confirm this by going over today's high, and we still have to be aware breadth is not good and there is a lower target, even though it might not print right now. So, big reversal day, it needs follow through. If it gets it, we could go hundreds of points higher, but not necessarily in this straight line. And that is today's call.